Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. This is Rina Taiber from the IEC Central Office in Geneva. I am pleased to welcome you to our webinar on marketing. Our speaker today is Gabriela Ehrlich, who is Global Head of Marketing and Communications at the IEC. She will explain how the IEC brand can help you get new stakeholders involved in your national committee. During her presentation, which will last about 20 minutes, participants will be on listen mode only. After the presentation, we will have a 10-minute Q&A session. You may also send me your questions through the chat function at any time from now onward. Please note that the webinar will be recorded and we will distribute the link to the recording and the presentation with all participants after the webinar. Gabriela, I now hand it over to you.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I think we have a wide range of people from all around the world. Thank you for attending. As Rina said, I will try to provide some insights into how an international brand, such as the one of the IEC, can provide extra power to your own national brand and further increase awareness about what you do, and hopefully make it easier then for you to get more of your national stakeholders to actively participate in international standardization work in the IEC. Good communication is essential in all aspects of business, and it's the root of success to provide information that entices your contact to engage with you. However, before they will listen to you, you have to generally get them interested. Sounds quite obvious, doesn't it? But what does this have to do with branding or the use of the IEC brand in your country, you might ask? First of all, let's have a look at what is a brand. You would be right to assume that a brand is a visual identity that's reflected in logos, design elements that are used in publications on websites and other communications. However, a brand is also much more. A strong global brand has a lot of value. The simple fact that you would generally prefer a Coca-Cola over an unbranded cola is because Coca-Cola the brand has value, and there is promise in the brand. When you look at the Coca-Cola bottle, there is all kinds of imagery that come into your mind that has been filled by years of advertising and communication. A brand reflects the promise of what an organization does and why that matters. And it's a psychological construct that is continuously filled with meaning. A strong brand differentiates. It can differentiate your offer from the offers of others, and it generates preference. If you look at this store, the same store on the right and on the left feel different because one is branded and one is not. Every branded piece of communication and every platform, whether it's online or in the physical world, and carries the brand of an organization, contributes to the overall perception of the company or organization it represents. It basically communicates essential values to customers, or in our case, potential stakeholders. And it is also continuously further enriching the brand promise. It's a sort of a cycle, an ongoing cycle. That's why it's on the one hand so important to keep aligned with what your brand stands for, and on the other side continuously communicate. It's also a reason why strong brands are worth millions and why people generally don't change brands once they have a successful brand. Now, in business and industry, any CEO is fully aware of the power of the brand. They're getting judged about what they're doing with the brand. And even though often they don't appreciate the importance of standards, which may sometimes seem odd to us. In our world, it is generally the other way around. National committees appreciate the importance of standards, but sometimes, or sometimes often, the brand and how it impacts activities beyond the visual and how it increases efficiency is not always fully understood. Brand names are increasing in importance everywhere. More people are brand conscious. Maybe that has to do with the overload of information that we have out there, and it's interesting. The IEC brand is an asset. It has been around for over 110 years. It sets expectations and delivers on a promise that when people buy an IEC international standard, they receive a technical basis that is state-of-the-art and has global value. This is also what we hear back from companies who are using our brand and from consortia who want to bring their industry's specifications into the IEC. The IEC brand benefits from a high level of trust, and it is synonymous of quality, safety, interoperability, and many other positive attributes. This reputation lends the IEC authority and credibility. But why do I say that the IEC brand can help increase the efficiency of an organization, or any brand for that matter? As mentioned earlier, brands help differentiate and make it easier for an organization to explain why they do what they do. Through membership in the IEC, national committees obtain a very unique advantage only they can offer at the national level to national stakeholders. For example, national committees are the sole legitimate representative of the IEC in their country. Maybe you haven't seen it that way, but IEC members are our voice into the market as much as they are contributing to the IEC. And yet, a large majority of IEC members don't communicate about the IEC or use the IEC brand in any way. We did a survey roughly a year and a half ago, and we found, looking at the websites of our IEC members, that only around 20 actually either show the IEC brand, and an even smaller amount delivers any kind of information or explanation of what the IEC does, and practically nobody makes the link between their organization and the IEC. One of the key requirements of an IEC national committee is to bring to the table all national interests in electrotechnology in their country and invite national stakeholders to participate in standardization work on the international platform in the IEC. Now, if the IEC member makes a link between the national committee and the IEC, explaining what we do together, it will likely be much easier and less time-consuming to explain to potential people in your market what we do together, and that creates efficiencies. One proverb I heard when I was in charge of sales was, sales happen before the salesman calls. You have to actually prepare for that, and then it becomes much easier. Your brand in your country may be well recognized. However, to get new stakeholders involved in IEC work, you probably need to demonstrate the value they would get out of working with you in the IEC. Making a clear link between your organization, you are after all the IEC member, and the IEC brand can be an additional unique benefit you may not yet have fully exploited. By including the IEC brand and explanations on your communication materials and website, you will be able to shorten explanations about the IEC because it will be much clearer from the start that your organization is the only way through which companies are able to influence standardization at the global level. That you are the ones who can make available a seat at the table where the technical rules for global trade are written and provide them with competitive influence at the global level. You can also better benefit and build on global IEC communication efforts, reusing IEC content, and with it save some money. And this can help you increase your own communication efficiency. Increased visibility and awareness of the IEC brand in your country also helps you multiply audiences. Don't forget, a lot of companies are supranational. When you use the IEC brand in your country, you also help the IEC as a whole get more visibility with international organizations. As you saw, the picture of the webinar was win-win. We rely on you to reach out to international organizations, regulators, the media, and industry. Get more visibility for IEC work so that we are heard when we speak, invited to contribute, in more publication and reports. Actually, as a fact, when I started in the IEC just about 8 years ago, I was told that until 20 years ago, the IEC did not communicate in any way. We also have very technical standards that don't always make the link with the areas we work in. So we have to be very diligent with how we communicate, and we have to get much more visibility. And that in turn increases our reach, the recognition of our work. It makes IEC standards more relevant for a larger group. And once again, in turn, it will make it easier for you to tell your story in your own country. So this is the win-win. You as an IEC member and the IEC as an organization. A strong, visible IEC brand helps move the whole IEC community forward. When you use and show the IEC brand in your country, you also help the IEC protect the IEC brand from misuse. And again, in the end, that benefits you and your business model, or at least your activities. The IEC Central Office has registered the IEC brand and continues to register the IEC brand and trademark in 73 countries. However, registration is just one step on the way of protecting the IEC brand from misappropriation, misuse. We have found over the last couple of years that when an entity has tried to misuse our brand, usually they bank on the fact that we are widely relevant, even if we are more behind the scenes than other brands such as ISO or ITU. But we have to demonstrate in front of a court, if we're trying to win back the right to our brands, that the brand is actually being used in the respective country where we find the infringement. And this can be extremely difficult in some countries because the IEC brand is basically invisible. Normally what we have to do is compile proof over the last 10 years of magazines, web content, events, etc. And as you can imagine, it is a mammoth task, and this would maybe made much easier if we had more visibility in the markets. When the IEC is not able to protect its brands, others might use it. It will create confusion in the marketplace, and ultimately it can erode trust in our work. Maybe if we don't do what it takes, so go beyond just registration but actual proof for use, we may not be able to find the experts, we may not be able to develop the standards that are needed. Brands have a very wide-reaching impact, as you can see. So one of the things we thought, talking to different national committees, is try to make it easier after the survey we did and where we didn't find any information, make it easier for you to make the link with the IEC brand. So we have created an info pack, which is available to national committee, and there is another slightly modified version for affiliate countries available. And the pack contains a number of different elements, including text that can be used on your website, which explains what the IEC stands for and which you can complete with your own organization's information, making the link between the two organizations. So it can be completed. This layout is just a suggestion. It's just a page holder. You do what you like with it, but the elements are all available on Basecamp. There is the address up there, so you go have a look. There is a password protection, but if after the webinar you're interested, please send us an email and we will give you access. For national committees, there are also business cards available for the president and the secretary. So this again would give additional visibility whenever you have official business for the IEC in your country. It would be really good to use that. Additionally, we recommend, if experts want to use or to show the IEC brand, we've seen all kinds of wild growths out there, to use this approach and allow them to have the IEC logo on their business cards. This is just a suggestion. If you want to do it differently, there are instructions of how to use the IEC logo. So if you follow those, you're free to do basically what you want with that. There's also a branded letterhead, which you can complement with your organization's logo. And again, the template is available on Basecamp. We have prepared stickers, 25 by 25 centimeters. We have seen already several national committees. We have started to roll out the InfoPack on a person-to-person basis. Our regional offices have gone out to different offices and have explained what the InfoPack is for and have handed them out. And again, if one or the other of your organizations has not received it yet, please let us know and we will forward it to you, since you have now an idea of what we're trying to do with this. These windows or door stickers can be easily peeled off, so they're not permanent, and they're an additional way of identifying that you are closely related to the IEC in one way or the other. We also have prepared a plexi display. Some of the members have put it at the reception and others at the desk of the secretary or the president. And if you would like to, you can order another one. And again, this also exists for affiliate countries. I would really be grateful, and I think you would benefit greatly, if you would claim the IEC brand for your country. I'm strongly convinced, having worked on branding and brands for the last 30 years, that it will make it easier for you to reach out to potential new stakeholders, to make the IEC brand more commonly recognized, protect your business model, and help the IEC protect the brand. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. So the floor is now open to the participants. If you have a question or a comment, you can either use the chat function or the hand-raising button on the control panel. I will then unmute you so that you can ask your question. So I see we have already received a question from Serge Shetsov from the IEC National Committee of Ukraine, who would like to know the best way to engage state bodies into the process of communication and implementing changes in legislation and standardization. Does the IEC has any guide on this, Gabriela?
Okay, it's a complex question, Serge. Thank you. I think nothing's ever really straightforward with communication. There is a guide, or there is a whole section that's dedicated to governments and regulators on the IEC website. You find there a guide that was written with ISO, together with ISO. There is all kinds of content that could be of interest to regulators. But having said that, that's just explaining what we do to regulators in terms of that they understand. I think the problem is more complex, or the challenge is more complex, in that we are generally very much behind the scene. We're not very well known. So for regulators who are not necessarily in our sphere, who are not technical people, to discover what we do in a given area can be quite hard. We have standards that have very technical titles, abstracts that are quite technical, and very often I have seen, and I'm not a technical person, so I'm coming from industry, my background is in marketing, and I had often trouble identify what do we actually do in smart grids, in smart cities, in energy efficiency, topics that are of interest to regulators, and the way cybersecurity, the way that they would search for information. When you look on the website, or when you do a Google search, generally there are all kinds of standards organizations and standards popping up, but not IEC. More recently, that has changed in some areas. Why? Because we have put in place a sort of a keyword initiative that I piloted since the last 2 years, and adding a layer to standards, making the link to where they fit in. So if you today go to the website and you enter as a layperson smart city, you will find 1,800 standards that relate in some way to smart cities, but it's a new development. So I would say we need to talk the language of the people we are trying to address. In the case of regulators, to give you another example, regulators are looking for cybersecurity. They would never come to their mind to look for security when they have a need in cybersecurity. But here again, we need to learn as an organization to talk their language and make the links. Now, I would strongly recommend also, if you have a newsletter, if you have a way of sharing some of the research we've done, some of the articles that we have done, and some of the guides we have, that can be a way of getting them aware that we are doing more than just the nitty-gritty technical things, which they cannot deal with, they don't understand. Serge, is that useful?
He's not.
Okay.
Yeah, so he replied to me and said yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I have a question from Avelino Molina from the Philippines, who is distance guide or benchmarking arrangement from the IEC in promoting and protecting the IEC brand in our country.
Okay, I don't know by heart right now. I think in the Philippines we are also registering the trademark. What we have is we have a global surveillance in place to check that our trademarks are not misused. We have a lawyer, trademark lawyer, professional, who has a system in place where he flags when we see misuses. I would say the IEC is only as good as all its members together. The IEC is not just central office. The IEC is every member around the world. And so my strong appeal to anybody would be to keep an eye open for IEC brand misuse as well. As I tried to outline earlier, in the end of the day, you're the ones who are benefiting directly from the work we do. In the standards, you either sell directly or you adopt. So if you talk about benchmarking, no, there's not benchmarking properly said, but we are keeping a very close eye both online and in publications, which are today more and more online. And we have had several legal cases that we have conducted in countries like China, Mexico, the US, to name just a few.
Okay. Thank you, Gabriela. So if we have no further questions, we will end the webinar now. I believe we all go away with a better idea of how we can use the IEC brand to generate interest from potential stakeholders. But if you have any other questions, please feel free to send them to me and Gabriela later on. So thank you again, everybody, for your participation. Thank you, Gabriela, and goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.